Hey, welcome to the Sports Reverends podcast. My name is Dan.
And my name's Drew.
We're no experts, but we are
the Sports Reverends. Samara and Jane is an Australian-based accessories retailer with all of the latest fashion trends from around the world. Ladies, update your style game with gorgeous earrings, necklaces, and other jewelry for affordable prices. And guys, you can shop for that special lady in your life too. Use discount code SPORTSREV30 for 30% off your entire order. That's SPORTSREV30 for 30% off your entire order. Use discount code at checkout at samaraandjane.com. And now we have a special guest, one of my good friends and runner-up in our fantasy football draft, Mr. Codey Allum. Woo! How you doing, Cody?
Good, boys. I'm pumped to be here. Thanks for the invite. I would say that you got lucky to get that dub. I'll tell you that for free. Dominated that league all year and just couldn't pull it off in the finals.
Yeah, you outscored everybody by what? How many points did you outscore
everybody? At least a couple hundred points.
Wow, just crazy. But, you know, a win's a win, and I'll take it. Yeah, and I'll take the money from it, too. But we also invited Cody on because he's one of the only Bengals fans that we could find.
In the world.
In the world. So, well, I guess we'll just start there. How are you feeling today?
You know, it's exciting. It was a stressful draft, honestly. Like there's so many holes that they could have addressed, but ultimately, I mean, you come out of any draft with arguably the best quarterback to come out of college football in recent years. Like he put up the single best college football season that we've seen last year, and so when you have that coming out of a draft, I mean, it's good, right? I like that they try to get him some weapons right off the hop. You know, T. Higgins in the second round is a huge asset. I think he's going to be a stud, especially probably post AJ Green. But yeah, it was interesting. Love that they took a couple linebackers. I'm feeling all right. There's some hope. There's some hope.
Yeah, finally. It's been a while.
Yeah, well, it hasn't been that long. You know, I love this, that like the Bengals get a lot of hate, and they deservedly get a lot of hate. But people like fail to realize like they made the playoffs 5 of 6 years, like this past decade. Like they had a good run, and like they're not a bad organization. Well, okay, they're not a great organization, but they're not. They haven't been bad recently. But I mean, anytime you finish poor enough to get the first overall pick, something's not right. But I think interestingly enough, like last year, they lost, I don't know how many games by less than like less than 3 points. It was something crazy like that. They lost like 8 games or 9 games by less than 3 points. Like they're not the worst team to ever finish last and get the first overall pick.
But you know, they did give some teams some good runs, and Andy Dalton won me my fantasy football championship, which I'll throw in there again. But how are you feeling about the AFC North this year and coming years?
Oh man, the North is scary. I mean, the Ravens are legit. Like they're gonna, and the difference between the Bengals and the Browns and the Ravens and the Steelers is just how they run their like the Ravens and the Steelers organizations are so good, and they know how to win, and they want to win. And so I thought the Ravens had like a really solid draft, which is terrifying. The Steelers, it was questionable. I figured they would have shot a little bit higher at one of those second round running backs or third round running backs. Like there's definitely some question marks with some Steelers stuff. So it's interesting. I mean, the quarterback situation in Pittsburgh, the future doesn't look great, right? Ben's a monster, but he's 100 years old and is obviously got some injury problems. So it'll be an interesting year. I mean, the Browns obviously underachieved a lot last year, but I don't know if they've got so much talent on that team. You can only, when you're bad for that long and you have that many first round picks, like elite high level first round picks, like their defense is gonna, I think, turn it around and get
picked up Austin Hooper too, right?
Yeah. Cody, the Browns, they've kind of boosted their arsenal and got a new coach. They're kind of retooling. They have all the weapons on offense you can think of. Baltimore is even better on defense, not just the draft, but even their offseason moves. And they're scary. The Steelers, even last year with a third and fourth string quarterback, was able to pull off 8-8 just because their organization and Mike Tomlin is just so great. How and when will the Bengals become a playoff team?
Man, that's tough. I think that, since the new coaching regime came in last year, like that's when we're really starting, or this offseason was the first offseason where we really started to see the change in the direction that the organization's going, right? Like they're spending money. They spent money in free agency like they've never done before.
True.
And you're starting to get some hand-picked players. So it's tough. Like obviously they got to address the O-line. That's the biggest need. I mean, linebacker, they were the worst team against the run last year. So they definitely have some holes to fill. The O-line is one of those things that people say that they should have drafted more O-line players and everything else. But I mean, we did draft Jonah Williams last year with like the 11th overall pick, and then he got hurt and he missed the entire season. So you're getting like an elite offensive lineman for free basically this year.
Yeah.
And so hopefully that addresses some holes. But honestly, man, I think this year's going to be another year where it's not the most fun. Joe Burrow's going to go through some growing pains and he's going to have some uphill battles. But hopefully within the next 2 or 3 years, we can get closer to that.
So the word around the league is AJ Green not going to be back for the Bengals?
There's a lot of speculation about that. He was pretty open about wanting to sign a contract and not wanting to be franchise tagged.
Right.
And so when they did franchise tag him, and I think that's a slap in the face for anybody in the NFL these days.
Yep.
Because it's essentially you're just cheaping out and locking in for a year. But I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, it's probably more enticing for him now that there's the potential of like a superstar quarterback, right? Like Andy Dalton was never going to be that. And Andy Dalton he gets a lot of hate and sometimes deservingly so, but like he actually wasn't that bad for a good portion of his time as starter there. So Joe Burrow, like if you got a potential, like I hate throwing this comparison out because obviously it's ludicrous, but like I've seen so many analysts that say his playing style is actually a lot like Tom Brady. Yeah. I'm not saying he's Tom Brady, obviously. But if you got a quarterback of that stature and that leadership level, and he's a little bit cocky, like Tom Brady is, but I think that has to be enticing for AJ Green. But who knows? Money talks, and the way the league is sort of running, I'm not sure you're going to see many teams want to pay a guy like AJ Green, as dominant as he was when he was healthy. It's
just a question of the health, right?
Right. Yeah. And it's the aging player. It's more
true.
So with running backs than it is with receivers. I think receivers can play longer, but like, man, this draft. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say Joe Burrow did say that he would average 15 points in the NBA if he stuck himself in the corner and hit open trays. So he has his confidence, that's for sure.
Yeah, dude, he definitely does that.
Do you like the Joe and Joe connection, Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon? You think it's going to open a lot up for Mixon to have a great year?
I think the O-line's the bigger issue for Mixon. I think Mixon's an absolute beast. He's, and this is unbiased. Like I hope it's unbiased. I'm obviously a little bit biased, but I've
taken emotion out of it. Okay, all right.
Emotion out. I view everything from a fantasy football perspective because I love fantasy so much. But even in real life football, like he's legitimately one of the best running backs in the NFL.
Yeah,
and like just straight up talent wise,
durability.
Yeah, exactly. He fell down in the draft a few years ago because he's got some off-field stuff, but he's like talent-wise legitimately one of the best running backs. So I think the O-line's probably the bigger question mark there, but the reality is I think if Joe Burrow plays well this year, the Bengals are going to score more points. The Bengals are going to be moving the ball more. And so that will, in and of itself, affect Joe Mixon. Like I think he will have another great season, and it'll be so interesting what happens contract wise. Like they're already talking about him holding out and stuff now. So
Wow.
Lastly, before I pass it back to Drew, you said that Cincinnati is probably going to have another rebuilding year this year. You didn't answer the actual question. When are they going to make the playoffs?
When I'll say 2 or 3 years. 2 or 3 years. I think they can turn it around. I think there's a good possibility of something like that. It provided they do continue to spend money and invest in actually bringing guys in. And it's not a super desirable market compared to some of the other places in the league, but I think they had a great free agency this year. And so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, just moving on, related, I think we all know that Joe Burrow's going to start. But we've also been discussing. Yeah, he better start. I don't think they have any other options. Maybe Joe Mixon can step in at quarterback. I don't know. Run the Wildcat for a while. But we were discussing last podcast, like of the other quarterbacks, who's going to have the best first year. And I don't know, Coach, you wanna step in?
Yeah, I think it all depends on what kind of offseason we get. If we actually get an offseason, you may see like Tua push Fitzpatrick. You may see Herbert push Taylor. Like, you never know. If it comes to a more compact offseason, then I don't think we'll see any of those guys starting. But I will go on my record with what I said last pod about Tua, and I think he'll replace Fitzpatrick this sooner rather than later. He'll have a monster year.
Okay, that's good.
Dan, you want to talk about Joe Burrows?
Hey, I will say our Bengals expert did say Joe Burrows to start off the podcast.
I did?
No, he didn't.
He did.
No.
We can rewind the tape. I'm not the only guy. All right, and it just sounds better. I don't know.
He was just trolling you in the first place.
Maybe. Yeah. Well, I picked Joe Burrow to he's going to be the most impactful quarterback this year. I think that's pretty clear. The more question is will Carson Wentz or Aaron Rodgers be replaced, since they apparently have their predecessors been picked in the draft? What do you think, Drew?
Well, I think for both teams, really, I think it's just a safety net at this point. Like, I can't speak to the Eagles, but Wentz has been hurt a lot too.
They paid Wentz $100 million, Drew. He's 27 years old. Are you kidding me right now? And they pick a guy in the second round for their quarterback? Are you serious?
Oh, we see where your true feelings coming.
Yeah.
It's just the truth. Like, come on.
I think you're just scared of getting beat by Jalen Hurts. I don't know.
I'm scared of getting beat all the time, all right? We're Cowboys fans. We know nothing's up. Nothing's ever confirmed. It could be the Redskins or the Giants. It doesn't matter.
But for the Packers, I don't think this is like next year Jordan Love is going to start. Like, this is a plan for 2-3 years down the road. Like, Aaron Rodgers is getting up there in age.
36, right?
Yeah, I think 36. And
might even be 37.
Really?
Someone
someone will look it up. But anyways, he's getting up there, and I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to be one of these quarterbacks that plays into his 40s. Like, I just don't see that in him. Not that he can't get it done. Like, he's been getting it done with one receiver for the last 2 or 3 years. But
he's 36. But I mean, who's gonna be more upset, Wentz or Rodgers? I'd have to say Rodgers would be more pissed that they drafted a young guy instead of drafting a wide receiver or any sort of help.
That's the biggest point, right?
Yeah, and
that's
trading up to do it.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. Like, when Rodgers got drafted, he fell to the Packers, right? They weren't planning on getting him, but he fell to the Packers, and they were pumped to sign him. This time they traded up to go get this guy. And, I mean, that's just – if the writing's on the wall for you, then I don't know what is.
was
Wentz,
the
I
same.
get it.
The same deal with Wentz, though. They desperately need another receiver, and
But
they
they
go and-
traded the 49ers for Marquise Goodwin. They got something.
another injury-prone receiver.
I think for the Eagles, like you're looking at a second round, and with Wentz getting hurt multiple times, it's you got to have and you look at what the Saints have been doing with their gadget guys, right? Like who knows what kind of stuff they can start running there. The Taysom Hill might become more trendy in the NFL.
I think it definitely will be. I think Hurts is a guy that's going to do that. But I also think that adding Jalen Reagor is like he is going to be solid. Like the wide receiver class this year from the draft is so deep. But I think that Jalen Reagor is going to be like elite kind of talent. Like he's one of the guys that I was highest on coming into the draft. So and I think that was the best landing spot for a receiver, right? Like there's nothing there. Like Deshaun is going to get hurt again, and Alshon's going to get hurt again, and then there's nothing. So I mean, beyond Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz, but somebody's got to be out wide, and I think that Reagor is going to be solid there. So, but I'm with you guys, and it's a huge question mark on both sides.
Reagor is one of those speedster guys, right? Like they could have. I guess the criticism is that if they're going to use the second round pick to pick up a quarterback that probably won't be their, future, they could have used it to at least go up in the draft and get a receiver that is more like a CD or more like move up one more to this. Who got picked in the 16th pick? Another top end receiver, right? More like a closer to a number one kind of style receiver. Other than the speedster, who's going to be, he'll fit the system, but he's not going to be like a go-to guy. I don't think. But that's just my point with the Eagles. I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I think both franchises are going to be having lots of questions asked this offseason what they're doing.
Yeah. So why don't we go around the clock here and just give our who we thought the best and the worst was at the draft? Like, I don't know. Who wants to start? Cody, you want to start? Put you on the spot?
I'm cool. Yeah, I'm cool to start. There's a few teams that I thought were really good around the draft. I think your Cowboys actually had a really good draft.
No, don't say that. Don't say that.
I'm not a huge boys fan. I think they had a really good draft.
They did.
I think the Lions had a really surprising, like, I couldn't believe that DeAndre Swift wasn't the first running back taken off the board. I don't know. I mean, that just goes to show Andy Reid will, like, he'll take whoever he likes at whatever pick, basically. Like,
yeah.
But DeAndre Swift, to me, more so than Jonathan Taylor, I think is like a really, really solid 3-down back. It's interesting with Kerryon being there. But like they draft, like Okuda's going to be a monster. I think the Lions were one of the teams that I was like, okay, they had a pretty impressive draft. The Dolphins too, they added a lot of really solid pieces. I mean, so you should when you have 3 first-round picks. But yeah, I think the Dolphins they're interestingly building in a way that I think is going to be really relevant to the way the NFL is going forward. There's a lot of people I saw on Twitter just being like, why have the Dolphins not gotten in on this Jonathan Taylor action, this DeAndre Swift action, even Clyde Edwards-Helaire, like one of these running backs. And it's interesting. Obviously, they traded for Matt Breida during the draft, and they brought over Jordan Howard during the draft, and really like the day of the like elite running back, I think, is actually coming to an end. There was so many teams that drafted a running back that you're like, why would that team draft a running back? But the reality is teams can't afford to pay running backs. And so I really like the Dolphins, the way they kind of went about that draft. They built up some of that O-line. They brought in some defensive pieces. Obviously Tua is going to be Tua if he's healthy. So Dolphins were a huge win, I think, in my books. Losers, definitely the Packers. Like how you even beyond just the like drafting of the quarterback. I mean, that franchise has obviously done this once before. It's actually scary how similar the situation and age. Like I think Brett Favre was also 36 when they drafted Aaron Rodgers and different things like that, the way they lined up. But the fact that you didn't draft any weapons is so ridiculous to me. And they did draft a running back. Who did they draft again? I can't remember.
AJ Dillon.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, the scouting reports that I heard on him prior is that he's not going to be a superstar. He's going to be kind of like your 2-down back, the standard kind of in the NFL right now. But I mean, that again just goes to show the running back thing. Like teams, Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones, I believe, are on their last year of their contract, and teams just don't want to pay running backs. So they're just going to keep drafting these young guys, and so it. But still, to me, I mean, how do you not address that wide receiver core there? How do you not add more weapons? Because they're in a window where their defense is good enough that they could actually push. Exactly. And they're still in that Aaron Rodgers era, and Aaron Rodgers obviously didn't look great last year, but he's still Aaron Rodgers and arguably one of the best of all time. So I don't know how you don't add more weapons there. I think it's a giant F, and I mean everybody's saying that it's the easy pick, but it's a pretty poor draft.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead, Coach.
I think for my losers of the draft, the Packers for sure, and obviously the Texans didn't do anything spectacular. I feel like if you're gonna trade away your best player, you gotta do something to, something to incite some sort of excitement through the draft. But like, I don't know, doesn't seem to be like they drafted anybody too exciting. I feel the Niners did good. I think they had the first 2 picks that they really addressed some needs for their team. Obviously, it's a little biased, but that's okay. And I think besides everything else that Cody said, those 2 were the ones that stood out for me. The Texans and the Niners were really on opposite ends of the spectrum for me.
All right, I'll go next year.
Okay.
Definitely Texans. Definitely Packers are trash. Trash drafts this year. I didn't think the Raiders made a big splash in the draft either. The Vegas Raiders, I always want to call them Oakland, but and I actually disagree, Joel. I think the 49ers, I didn't love their draft class this year as well. And
why?
Well, they just there's in a deep wide receiver pool too. They didn't address that need, and they did trade away one of their guys, and they lost Emmanuel Sanders. So
they picked up 2 wide receivers. They got that Brendan.
I know, but I'd want them to at least get a high end wide receiver is what I'm trying to say. So that's what because they're the 49ers, they're right there. And they've lost some key components now from their Super Bowl team. So we'll see. And I don't like the Falcons either. I think they had a bad draft class. Good draft classes this year. Obviously, I love the Cowboys. And we talked about Baltimore. They're going to be just a tough team this year. I think the Vikings also picked up a couple good prospects as well. So those are my tops and bottoms.
For sure. I was going to say the Vikings. I really liked what they did, even though they're in my division. But replacing what you say?
They had a lot of picks.
Yeah. They had tons of picks, and they needed to replace Stephon Diggs, and I think Justin Jefferson had a great year last year, great college career.
Probably because of his quarterback, but
it might have been because of the quarterback, but he's still got to catch the ball. He's still got to run with it. It's still good. My bottom is probably the Seahawks. Didn't really do a whole lot. I'm a big Russell Wilson fan, and I think they just need to get him some more protection up on that O-line, and they still haven't been able to do that.
Yeah,
I know it's hard to protect quarterbacks that roll out, but he gets hit so much. Like if you watch Russell Wilson play, his escapability is unreal, but he gets hit way too much. So
just on the Raiders there, Dan, I also agree. they had a horrible draft, but the most Raiders thing that I've ever seen was the fact that they took Henry Ruggs before Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb.
Yes.
Like, are you kidding me? Like, okay, let's just get the fastest guy we can because that's just what we do because we're the Raiders. And like, we're gonna turn. Like, I think he actually will be good. I think he's a guy that like his elusiveness can like really help Derek Carr out. But I mean, you're talking about guys that like they're talking about Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb potentially being like generational players, like not just like top of the draft class. Like you missed out. Like what the heck?
Yeah.
That's good.
Oh man, it's crazy. I couldn't believe that they did that too. Okay, the next on the list is the question. Maybe we'll start with the coach here because it's your team. San Francisco had was most active in the draft in terms of trades. Will they be better or worse than last year?
I think last year, I don't want to say it, but last year was a bit of a Cinderella run for them. Yeah, they managed a lot of games, and they won it a bunch of different ways. But I think it's going to be tough for them to repeat and go back to the Super Bowl just because everybody's getting better. And it really all comes down to Garoppolo. But the moves they made, I did like because they picked up Trent Williams, which is a huge help. After Joe Staley
stole Trent Williams. Come on.
For a fifth round, you don't know what else they were offered, right?
I know. That's
you know what I mean? Like, real good. I know, but I think a lot of teams had expected him to push for a longer term contract once they traded for him. But he's just chilling. He play out this year and go from there. I think that was the biggest move, despite whatever they did in the draft. And then picking up Kinlaw was great because he's a big dude, 6'5", 325. That's just a monster in the middle, right? So the defense will be sick. Offense, I know we're disagreeing on the wideouts, but I think they made some solid picks here. Solid picks. And then Dawson Kittle and then this Charlie Werner guy. Not the greatest numbers overall coming out of college, but he's very versatile. You look at the tape, he's very versatile, good run blocker, potential fullback. So are they going to win the division? Tough to say. I think Seattle is still right there. All the games last year with Seattle were tough. Will they go to the Super Bowl again? Bias says yes. Heart says yes. Head says less likely, just the way football works. But it'll be interesting. It'll be really interesting. I think, the biggest thing is getting Trent Williams just to slip right on in after Staley was gone. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I don't know. Jimmy G just has that winning factor to him. Doesn't matter if he's putting up numbers or not, but he just wins and wins.
Annoying.
It's super annoying. It's just because he has such good looks. He just wins. That's how
that division's gonna be so tough in the coming years too. With Arizona getting better too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like that division, because I'm expecting the Rams to bounce back at least a little bit, but that whole division, top to bottom, it's gonna be one of the toughest in the whole league.
So what do you think, Drew? Are they gonna be worse or better than last year?
I don't think you can get much better than they played last year, like execution wise. Like you can talk about whether their talent is better or not, but I don't think they can execute any better than they did last year.
Mm-hmm. They're in the top 5 of games won by, I think, 3 points or less. It might be 7 points or less, but regardless.
But injuries weren't also a big thing either, right? Like they didn't have a ton of major injuries.
Right.
That could derail the whole season too.
Yeah. And I love their offensive line. Like both their tackles are like that McGlinchey or whatever his name is. He's a beast on the right side and
big dudes.
And you look at the top teams, like the playoff teams last year, and all of them I'm pretty sure had really good offensive lines. The ones that went deep. And I think it's an overlooked thing nowadays is getting those solid offensive lines. And I think 49ers, Dallas those are two of the better. And Baltimore's offensive line is unreal too.
Yeah.
So I think talent-wise, they're right there. Execution, like getting to the Super Bowl, I'm not sure. It's hard to do 2 times in a row.
Yeah. What about you, Cody?
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same page as these guys. I think mathematically, the chances that they get to the Super Bowl are so against them.
Do they
But
win their division?
do
Do they
they?
make the playoffs?
Oh, I think they make the playoffs. Their team's too good to not make the playoffs. I think that they did make a lot of really good additions. I'm actually kind of on the side of I actually like Brandon Ayuk, who they added in the first round there, the receiver. I think that as a compliment to Deebo Samuel, like I'm really high on Deebo Samuel,
Yeah,
but
Debo's nice.
Deebo's a stud, and Kyle Shanahan knows how to use guys like Deebo. So I think that
Except in the Super Bowl, but
well,
every
okay,
other
that's
game,
fair. Yeah,
every
that's
other
fair.
game.
It's amazing how many coaches just completely choke in the Super Bowl. Though,
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that they made a lot. They had a lot of really nice additions. And the division, I'm with Drew on the Cardinals, like becoming a threat potentially even this year. Like I really think that they could, like they added some weapons, and the fact that Simmons fell to them like
Oh yeah,
is ridiculous. Like
yeah.
that guy is going to be a monster. That defense got a lot better. They definitely could use some O-line help. I'm surprised. Like they kind of were probably expecting to draft O-line all day, and then Simmons fell to them and like we can't not take this guy, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So I do think the division's getting harder, but I think that the 49ers got better in the offseason talent-wise, and it just comes down to execution, and I'm not a huge Jimmy Garoppolo guy, so I will definitely take the under on that one.
Yes,
But I think they'll make a playoffs too.
Yeah, I'm in the same way. I think they make playoffs. I don't think they win the division. I think Seahawks win the division this year.
Oof.
I think Cardinals, yeah, they're up and coming for sure. I still think they're another year away though. Even though they stole Hopkins and
Legit
that connection,
stole.
like Hopkins and Fitzgerald. Oh my goodness, it's gonna be a deadly offense. I think.
Christian Kirk too.
Yeah, Christian Kirk. I still think they're a year away. A couple more holes to fill. But yeah, I'm on the same route with you guys. I think 49ers will be there, but this will be a showing of Jimmy G having a subpar compared to these last couple years as a starter year as what he's accustomed to. So that's where I'm at with the 49ers, boys.
Now, before we let Cody go, I know Dan's going to want to talk about the NFC East and his Cowboys.
Yes.
So we'll let him just talk for a bit.
You got 30 seconds, Dan.
All right.
30 seconds to talk about the Cowboys. And
This is before I talk about the Cowboys, I'll talk about the division as a whole. This is my hot take for the division. Okay.
Sure.
The Philadelphia Redskins are still going to finish last.
Obviously.
Philadelphia
That's a good hot take.
Eagles. This is my hot take. Are going to finish third in that division, behind the Giants in second, and the first, obviously, the Dallas Cowboys. The Giants, I'm telling you, their draft this year has filled a lot of holes. They have all the studs on offense that they need. Their defense is better than people are rating them. They had some tough games last year, and Danny Dimes is going to get better, right? He's not going to. His biggest problem was fumbling the ball. It wasn't the interceptions, right? His fumbles, and I think that's a quicker fix than interceptions. So I think the Giants, they're going to be right there above the Eagles. Finish about 7-9, 8-8. Eagles are going to take about 6 wins,
Wow.
5 wins.
Yikes.
That's disrespectful.
There it is.
Who wants
video.
to even touch that? Who wants to even touch it?
It's in the video. There's the NFC East right there. Okay? Who's up next?
I'm with you on the I'm really with you on the Giants taking a step forward. I think that they Danny Dimes surprised a lot of people last year.
Yeah.
Everybody after he was drafted in the top 10 was like, what the heck are they doing?
Exactly.
And he was actually pretty good last year. So
yeah. Everyone was saying take Haskins, but
100%. Yeah. Picking up like Andrew Thomas and Xavier McKinney in the first 2 rounds there, bolstering that O-line and you creating even more space for Barkley to get and do Saquon things I think the Giants are going to take a step forward. I think the boys, like I said, had a really good draft. I'm not a huge boys fan by any means, but I think Dak is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the league. I think he's very, very good. And even again, from a fantasy perspective, because that's how I view football nowadays, he's elite.
He is.
I think Dak's in my top 3 this year going into the season. He's elite. And so with the new weapon in CD there, I think that the boys are going to be they're going to be legit. So I love that. I'm with you on that same order. I think the Skins have a long road ahead of them, but I like the call. I don't know if I can drop the Eagles down to 6 wins, but I do like the bump to the Giants.
Yeah. Come on, Coach.
I'm just speechless with you some days. Just honestly. Just
Super Bowl. All right. We're going to the Super Bowl, Joel.
I'm surprised you haven't crowned them.
Let's
Super Bowl
go.
winners. There's big Cowboys flag behind you. I'm just,
Next podcast.
Why do we even need to play the games now? Dan's already crowned them the winners.
Yeah.
I honestly think the NFC East is going to be an interesting division because the Redskins are going to suck. Sure, we can agree on that. But Carson Wentz is probably listening to this pod and he's going to be like, you know what? That Dan guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just going to come and rip everybody apart.
And he's going to get injured on the way here. But that's okay.
Well, at least he's not going to choke like the boys do every year in the playoffs.
Oh.
So
you have one Super Bowl more than us, okay? Settle down. Settle right down.
And there's still one more. It's +1. I think it's going to be interesting season for these guys because, like you said before in the last pod, they will beat each other up.
It's a bloodbath every year.
It's going to be a bloodbath, and that is a detriment to them not having at least one tough team in that division, right?
Over the last decade, there hasn't been a back-to-back division winner, so
yeah,
the odds are in our favor. So
yeah, I think people are forgetting just how good Carson Wentz can be, though. Like,
oh yeah.
Like,
I agree with you, Drew.
Dan Chandler. That's who you mean.
No. I hold Carson Wentz to the highest of standards. I think he has the talent to be a top 5 quarterback. But he just this whole last year has been a giant letdown, I think. And from his decision making to holding on to the ball too long, and
they still won the division. That's what I'm saying.
I know, but still,
I think with Carson Wentz coming back, I think he has a lot to prove.
Yeah,
and I think the Eagles take the division again. I know there hasn't been a repeat winner, but I think they do.
It's 2020. Anything can happen.
There's my hot take. Whatever.
All right, there's your hot take. I love it. Well, Cody.
Yes, my man.
Great to have you on the show, man.
Hey, thanks for the invite. It's been fun.
We'll have to have you back soon.
Anytime.
Yeah, we're going to get out golfing soon too, Cody.
Let's go. Next Friday, you said.
Yeah, next Friday.
I'm down.
Lastly, Cody, tell us how your ministry's going and what you do and what's going on for this next foreseeable future for you guys.
Dude, it's been obviously we're in an interesting time, and so it's been a little bit of an adjustment for that, and we're really just trying to figure that out. I do kind of do a little bit of everything at church. I do run the youth ministry, but I also have, and I've kind of just got a bunch of different hats as well, worship and tech and everything else. So I've been busier in this season than I anticipated I would be, just doing all of the recording and that sort of stuff. But it's been a lot of fun. So really we're just figuring this out and excited to get back to normal. And really I've been just like excited about like how, I think our world's going to be very different when we get back to normal, but I think the church is going to be very different when we get back to normal. And it's going to be interesting to see that play out. So ministry's good, man, but it's definitely this whole season that we're in is getting old really fast.
I agree. And
you might not know this, Dan, but why don't you give a shout out to Rev Amps as well, another place you work at.
Drew we were talking about this before the podcast started. I do build guitar amps for a company called Rev Amplification. And
nice.
Drew was saying that you got to get them as a sponsor on the show. So I don't imagine that's going to happen, but I could see what I can do.
Free sponsorship, whatever.
Yeah, free sponsorship.
They'll take free publicity anywhere.
All right.
Hey, boys, it's been real. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Thanks, Cody.
Yeah, Cody. Woo!
Train to Invest is one of North America's leading investment education and training corporations. Our purpose is to provide a new way for families, individuals, and communities to think about wealth management. Through teaching, training, and coaching individuals in the art and science of self-directed investing, we focus on a foundation based on capital preservation. Train to Invest offers a complete education and training experience, focusing on fundamental analysis, technical analysis, risk analysis, and developing skills for active trading. To find out more, visit our website at www.traintoinvest.com and download our free ebook to start your journey towards financial freedom. Again, that's www.train2invest.com and download our free ebook today.